Hi everyone. Today we will read Betty Q Investigates by Karyn Gorman. From the beginning, Mr. and Mrs. Q knew their baby daughter was smart. After all, it's not every day you see a baby looking after the family's finances. But Betty Q was more than smart. She was like a walking computer in ballet slippers. Betty, what's the six-letter word meaning one and only? Asked Dad. Unique, chirped Betty. Your new invention works like a charm, Mom said. Just something I've been playing around with, said Betty. Of course, once word got out, things got pretty busy around the Q residence. Everyone wanted Betty Q's help, and the doorbell didn't stop ringing. Ding dong, we're here to recruit Betty Q, said a government official. Ding dong, ever considered the space program, Betty Q? Ding dong. Who is it, Betty? Asked Mom. No one important, answered Betty. Nevertheless, Betty Q turned them all down. She just wanted to be a regular kid and do regular kid things. But in Betty's hometown of Delville, regular things never seemed to happen. At school one Friday morning, Miss Marshall discovered that Molly's birthday cupcakes were missing. Cupcakes were always a big hit in the classroom, but when Miss Marshall opened the box, all that was left were the crumbs. Immediately, the children started to blame each other. It was Reggie, accused Jenny. He always wants more food. It was Jenny, shouted Reggie. She likes anything that's pink. Miss Marshall explained that Molly's dad had dropped off the cupcakes the night before. The cupcakes went missing before anyone had arrived at school. They must have been stolen last night, said Reggie. The school was burgled. Soon Principal P.O. arrived to see what all the fuss was about. He confirmed that nothing else was missing and all the windows and doors were intact. The school was not burgled, he said. Then someone must have had a key, pointed out Shannon. But who has a key to the school? The children considered the suspects. Caretakers have keys, said Jenny. Caretaker Smith suddenly looked very uncomfortable. It wasn't me. I wasn't even here last night, protested Caretaker Smith. Look, the garbage cans are still full. A likely story, huffed Reggie. It's true, continued Caretaker Smith. I was at the big bingo tournament and I won. Caretaker Smith's alibi was pretty good. Everyone was puzzled. What a conundrum, said Principal P.O. Maybe Molly's dad forgot to put the cupcakes in the box, said Reggie. Maybe the cupcakes just disappeared, suggested Shannon. Maybe there's a ghost, squeaked Billy. I have the answer, said Betty Q. As always, Betty Q was doing two very important things that she always did, listening and observing. She walked very slowly around the room, got out her magnifying glass, and began. I know who stole the cupcakes, and the thief is here in this room. Now Betty had everyone's attention. Let's review the facts, she continued. 1. Miss Marshall put the cupcakes on the highest shelf, so the thief had to reach up high. That's true, said Miss Marshall. I put the cupcakes on the very important things shelf for safekeeping. 2. I noticed crumbs on the floor. The thief must have eaten the cupcakes inside the classroom. So the thief had to be able to reach up high and have access to the classroom, deduced Jenny. Oh my goodness, children, don't look at me, exclaimed Principal P.O. It wasn't Principal P.O., said Betty Q. But you said the thief had to reach the top shelf, objected Jack. Only someone who is tall could do that. And you said the thief ate the cupcakes inside the classroom, said Shannon. Who else could get in without a key? You don't have to get inside the classroom if you've never left it, Betty said. And you don't have to be tall if you can fly. And 3, probably the most important evidence of all, the thief did not finish eating the cupcakes. Here's your thief, announced Betty Q. Jojo, cried the children. But what about the cupcakes? Sniffed Molly. We won't have any for my party. Don't worry, said Miss Marshall. Luckily, there are still plenty of treats Jojo hasn't been able to eat. Mystery solved thanks to Betty Q, said Principal P.O., congratulating her. But cupcakes weren't the only thing to go missing in Dullville that day. Betty was about to get her biggest case yet. Betty, come quickly, Wendy called. Patty Pecker's pet shop has just been robbed. Betty Q and her friends ran to Patty Pecker's pet shop and found her pouting on the porch. It's a disaster, she wailed. My perfect poodle Snowflake has been stolen. Patty's prized pooch was supposed to compete in the Dullville Pet Show later that afternoon, but when Patty returned to pick up Snowflake from the shop, she was gone. Minnie, my shop assistant, said there were only 3 people in the shop today, said Patty. Then she walked over to a pen full of poodles and added some biscuits to their bowl. A group of black poodles raced over. Snowflake would have won first prize today for sure, sniffed Patty. Would you mind if we talked to Minnie? Betty asked. Minnie was by the shelf stacking tins of dog food. How do we know Minnie didn't take Snowflake? Asked Reggie. I would never hurt Snowflake, Minnie gasped. I put Snowflake in the poodle pen with the other dogs this morning. I fed the dogs at noon, and Snowflake was still there. But when I got here at 2 o'clock, Snowflake was missing, said Patty. Who else was in the shop? Asked Jenny. There was one customer who bought a kitten this morning, said Minnie, and in the afternoon another customer bought a lizard. At the same time, a delivery person dropped off fresh-cut flowers. I bet it was the lizard customer, said Shannon. After all, who buys a lizard as a pet anyway? Minnie shook her head. I was with him the whole time. He did not steal Snowflake. Maybe someone came into the shop without you knowing, offered Reggie. We keep the doors locked so that no animals get out, said Patty. Everyone must be let in and out of the shop with a key. May we walk around? Asked Betty Q. As always, Betty Q was doing 2 very important things that she always did, listening and observing. It's as if Snowflake vanished into thin air, sniffled Patty. Betty got out her magnifying glass. I know exactly where Snowflake is, she declared. Now Betty had everyone's attention. Let's review the facts, she began. There is only one door to the shop, said Betty, and that door is locked except when Minnie opens it with a key. Right, I only opened and closed it 3 times, Minnie confirmed, and no one left with Snowflake. After the kitten customer left this morning, Snowflake was still in her pen, stated Betty. Correct, confirmed Minnie. And you were with the lizard customer the whole time, Betty continued. Correct, confirmed Minnie. Of course, if you were busy with the lizard customer, then you couldn't have been watching the man delivering flowers, deduced Betty. But he just dropped the flowers off, said Minnie, and when I let him out of the shop, he didn't have Snowflake. Betty walked over to the flowers on the counter. You said that the man delivered fresh-cut flowers, said Betty. Yes, we get them every week, said Patty. Betty took out one of the flowers and held it up to Patty's nose. What do you smell? Asked Betty. I can't smell anything, said Patty. That's right, said Betty, because those flowers are fake. But why would someone deliver fake fresh-cut flowers? Asked Reggie. Because someone wanted to use the vase to hold something else instead of water, said Betty. Then she emptied the vase. Out popped a bottle of black paint. What is the paint for? Asked Jenny. Betty walked over to the poodle pen and picked up one of the dogs. She took it to the dog bath and ran the water over it. To paint a white poodle black, said Betty, turning around to reveal a white poodle. Snowflake! Everyone yelled. While Minnie was distracted with the customer looking for a lizard, the man delivering flowers painted the only white dog in the shop black to match the other poodles. Oh, thank you, Betty Q, said Patty, holding on to Snowflake tightly. I bet that wasn't a real delivery person. It was probably Mr. Baker. His parrot is competing in the pet show today, too. Well, there's still time to clean up Snowflake for the competition, said Betty. Good luck. Good work, Betty. Another case solved, Billy said as Betty and her friends walked back to school. And to think Mr. Baker almost got away with his evil plan. Without Snowflake competing, Mr. Barker's parrot would have won the Dullville Pet Show for sure. Oh, I doubt that, Betty said with a smile. Mr. Barker's pet can sing, but it's hard for a parrot to sing with a stomach ache. Or should I say cupcake ache? You mean? Jenny gasped. Betty Q nodded. Jojo is Mr. Barker's pet parrot. Mr. Barker loaned him to the school for National Pet Week, but while he was busy scheming, his parrot was eating too many cupcakes. It serves Mr. Baker right, giggled Molly. Speaking of cupcakes, can we have my party now? Of course, said Miss Marshall. Hopefully the rest of our day will be nothing but regular. Of course, in Betty's hometown of Dullville, regular things never seemed to happen. Betty, come quick! They still try to recruit her for government services, they still beg her to join the space program, and they still consult her on one important issue, which we still can't talk about. But Betty Q has her hands full just being a kid. Thank you guys. I'll see you next